The Handsome Stranger and the Cursed Village. The village of Oloran sat nestled between towering trees, their emerald leaves whispering secrets to the wind. The people lived simple lives, tilling the land, fishing in the great river, and gathering beneath the moonlight to tell stories of old. Yet, a shadow loomed over their peace. For several months now, young women had been dying in their sleep. Each was found with 2 small glowing marks on her forehead, marks that resembled the bite of a snake. But no one had ever seen a serpent near the bodies, and the deaths remained a mystery. Fear crept into the hearts of Oloran's people. Mothers clutched their daughters tighter at night. Young women no longer walked alone, even in broad daylight. The village chief, Isnana, sent his bravest warriors deep into the forest, hunting for the mysterious snake. Yet each time they returned, their hands were empty, and their faces were filled with confusion. But amidst the fear, one man walked without a care in the world, Kwame. The Handsome Stranger. Kwame was unlike any man in Oloran. He stood tall, with skin as dark as polished mahogany and eyes that gleamed like the stars. His smile could melt the hardest hearts, and his voice flowed like sweet palm wine. Women giggled when he passed, their cheeks flushing like the morning sun. Men envied him. Women desired him. And Kwame knew it. He was a carpenter by trade, his hands skilled at shaping wood into beautiful works. But he was also a master at shaping hearts, whispering words that made even the most cautious women forget their fears. As the village lived in terror, Kwame continued as if nothing was wrong. He laughed at the worried murmurs of mothers. He winked at young women despite their father's warnings. He claimed the village curse was nothing but the work of fearful minds. Why live in fear of death, he would say with a smirk. Better to enjoy life while you have it. And so, while others locked their doors at night, Kwame walked freely under the moonlight, unaware, or perhaps unwilling to see, that something dark was watching him. The warning of Mama Osei. There was one person who refused to be blinded by Kwame's charm, Mama Osei, the oldest and wisest woman in Oloran. Her skin was wrinkled like the bark of an ancient tree, and her eyes held the weight of many lifetimes. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, she stood in the center of the village square, her voice rising above the fearful whispers. "This is not the work of an ordinary snake," she declared. "This is the work of a curse. Something unnatural lurks among us, and until it is uncovered, more will die." The villagers listened, but fear had made them deaf to wisdom. "The chief's warriors will find the snake," some muttered. "This is women's talk," others scoffed. Only a few glanced at Kwame, wondering why he alone remained untouched by fear. Mama Osei's sharp eyes landed on him, and for the first time, a flicker of something passed through Kwame's gaze. Was it unease? But just as quickly, he smiled, bowed slightly, and walked away. The elder watched him go, gripping her staff tighter. "The spirits see what men do not," she murmured under her breath. "And soon, they will make their judgment." Little did the villagers know, the dark force was already among them. And it had already chosen its next victim. The seduction and the shadow of death. The night was heavy with the scent of hibiscus and burning wood as Kwame leaned against the great baobab tree in the village square. His white tunic clung to his strong chest, his arms folded with effortless confidence. Around him, the evening hummed with life, drums in the distance, laughter from the huts, the flickering of fireflies in the dark. But Kwame's eyes were fixed on only one thing, Adaora. She stood by her family's hut, her dark braids cascading down her back, her beauty radiant even under the pale moonlight. She was the daughter of Obina, the village herbalist, and unlike most women, she had always kept her distance from Kwame's charm. Tonight, that would change. The forbidden dance. "Adaora," Kwame called softly as he approached. "Why do you always run from me?" She turned, her brows furrowing. "I do not run. I simply have no time for foolishness." Kwame grinned. Oh, but what if I am not foolish? What if I am simply a man who wishes to know you better? Adaora sighed. My father has warned me about you. He says you are like a moth that dances too close to the flame. Kwame chuckled. And yet, the flame is beautiful, is it not? She opened her mouth to protest, but Kwame stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. The night is too beautiful to waste on warnings. Walk with me, just for a little while. Adaora hesitated, glancing toward her family's hut. But something in Kwame's eyes pulled at her, an unseen force as smooth as his words. Just one walk. What harm could it do? She followed him into the night. A whisper in the dark. The forest was alive with the rustling of leaves, the croaking of frogs, and the distant hoot of an owl. Kwame led Adaora along a narrow path, their hands brushing against each other as they walked. I have seen many beautiful things in my life, Kwame murmured, but none compared to you. Adaora shook her head, laughing softly. Your tongue is coated in honey, Kwame. Tell me, do you speak the same words to every woman? Kwame smiled, but before he could answer, a strange hissing sound echoed through the trees. Adaora froze. Did you hear that? Kwame's face remained calm. It is only the wind. But Adaora's heart pounded. The wind did not hiss. Something watched them. Something slithered in the shadows. The morning of terror. At dawn, a scream shattered the morning silence. Villagers rushed toward the source of the sound. Adaora's family hut. Inside, her mother knelt beside the still body of her daughter, wailing in despair. Adaora was dead. And on her forehead, 2 glowing snakebite marks burned against her skin. Panic erupted like a wildfire through Oloran. It has happened again, a man cried. The cursed snake has claimed another, a woman wailed. But this time, the whispers were different. Because Adaora had been last seen with Kwame. The shadow of suspicion. How is it that Kwame walks free while death follows every woman he touches? Someone muttered. Could it be that the snake is not an animal, but a man? Another questioned. Kwame, however, remained untouchable. His charm was like a spell, many still defended him. He is just an unfortunate man, some said. How could one as handsome as Kwame bring death? But one woman refused to be blinded. Mama Osei's warning. With her staff in hand, Mama Osei stormed into the chief's hut. It's Nana, she said firmly, I have warned you before. Now you must listen. This curse, this darkness, it follows Kwame. He must be questioned before more lives are lost. The chief sighed, rubbing his temples. Mama Osei, you bring only fear. We have no proof that Kwame is responsible. The old woman stepped closer, her gaze piercing. Proof, she echoed. When the vulture circles above, must we wait for the carcass to rot before we know death is near? But the chief shook his head. Without evidence, I cannot act. Mama Osei exhaled sharply. Then prepare, chief, for more graves to be dug. As she left the hut, the wind howled through the trees. The spirits of Oloran were restless. And in the shadows, something unseen watched and waited. A mother's grief and the hidden truth. Neka had not eaten, had not slept. Her world had shattered the moment she found her daughter's lifeless body. Adaora was her only child. Now, she was gone, stolen by the cursed serpent that haunted the village of Oloran. But Neka refused to let grief consume her. If the chief would not act, if the villagers still clung to their foolish belief in Kwame's innocence, then she would seek answers herself. And so, before the first light of dawn, she wrapped herself in a dark cloak and left the village, walking into the depths of the forest. The seer in the shadows. The journey was treacherous, thick vines clawed at her ankles, unseen creatures rustled in the underbrush. But Neka pressed forward, her heart set on a single destination. The home of Baba Agbo. Few dared to seek out the powerful seer, for his wisdom came at a great price. Legends whispered that he spoke with the spirits, that he could see the truth hidden beneath flesh and bone. As Neko reached the clearing, she found him seated on a woven mat beneath an ancient Iroko tree. His face was weathered, his eyes clouded with the weight of centuries. In his presence, the very air felt heavy. "You come with a question, but you already know the answer," Baba Agbo said without looking up. Neko fell to her knees. "Tell me the truth, Great One. My daughter is dead, and I will not rest until I know why." Baba Agbo exhaled deeply. He dipped his fingers into a small clay pot, lifting out a dark, shimmering powder. As he blew it into the air, a thick mist swirled around them, forming shadows that danced and twisted. Then he spoke. "Kwame is no ordinary man." Neko's breath caught in her throat. He was born under a cursed moon, his fate sealed before he took his first breath. By day, he walks as a man, his beauty and charm masking the truth. But by night, the mist swirled faster, revealing the shape of a great serpent, its fangs dripping with venom. He is the snake, Neko. He does not hunt them, he is them. Each woman he seduces feeds the dark spirit within him. The serpent takes, and Kwame remains whole. This is his curse. Neko clutched her chest. Then, Adaora. Baba Agbo nodded solemnly. She was never meant to survive him. A scream threatened to tear from Neko's throat, but she held it in. Grief could wait. Rage could not. "Tell me, Great One," she whispered, her eyes burning with fury. "How do we stop him?" A village in denial. Back in Oloran, the whispers against Kwame had grown louder. Yet still, some villagers refused to believe he could be responsible. "He is too handsome, too kind," they argued. A cursed man would not smile so sweetly. And so, while the village debated, Kwame continued his ways. That very night, another woman fell under his spell, this time, the chief's own niece. But the chief had begun to doubt. The deaths could not be ignored, and the timing of each one, always after a night spent with Kwame, was impossible to dismiss. Desperate for answers, he summoned his most trusted warriors in secret. "You will follow him," the chief ordered. "Find out the truth. And if he is the serpent that haunts us, we will end this curse once and for all." As the warriors nodded and slipped into the night, a cold wind swept through the village. Far away, beneath the full moon, Kwame smiled, unaware that his darkest secret was about to be uncovered. The night of revelation. The night was thick with silence, the kind that presses against the skin like an unseen weight. A group of warriors crouched in the shadows, their hands tightening around their spears as they watched Kwame sleep in his hut. For too long, he had walked among them, laughing, seducing, living without fear. But tonight, they would uncover the truth. The transformation. At first, Kwame appeared like any other man in slumber. His chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, his face peaceful. Then, it began. A faint glow pulsed beneath his skin, his body twisting unnaturally. His muscles tensed, veins bulging as his limbs spasmed. Then came the sound, a sickening crack of bones shifting. A gasp caught in one warrior's throat, but he beat down on his knuckles to stay silent. From Kwame's back, something slithered. Dark, glistening scales rippled over his skin, spreading like ink. His fingers curled into talons, his jaw unhinging as his mouth stretched wider than any human's should. Then, before their eyes, Kwame was no longer a man. A monstrous serpent, its body as thick as a tree trunk, coiled where he once lay. Its scales shimmered in the moonlight, the same eerie glow as the snakebite marks left on the dead women. And then, its eyes opened. Golden. Piercing. Hungry. The warriors bolted. The village awakens. By the time they reached the chief's hut, their voices were frantic. Chief! Chief! We have seen it. The chief, awakened by their shouting, stepped outside with a stern expression. What nonsense is this? One of the warriors, still breathless, fell to his knees. It is Kwame. He is the cursed one. We saw it with our own eyes. As the commotion grew, the village stirred. Doors creaked open, villagers stepping out, their faces creased with concern. Mama Osei was among them, her sharp eyes glinting as if she had known the truth all along. It is as I warned, she said, her voice steady. The serpent has walked among us, wearing the face of a man. The people murmured in fear, but Mama Osei raised a hand to silence them. You must hear the tale, she said. The tale of Oba, the man cursed by the gods. The legend of Oba. Long ago, there was a man named Oba, who was blessed with unmatched beauty and charm. But he was a deceiver, a man who lured women with false promises, stealing their hearts only to leave them in ruin. One day, he seduced the daughter of a powerful goddess. When he betrayed her, the goddess cursed him with a hunger that could never be satisfied. By day, you will remain a man, she decreed. But by night, your true form will emerge, the form of a beast that preys on those you claim to love. And so, Oba became a serpent of the night, doomed to feast on the very women he ensnared. The villagers listened in horrified silence. Mama Osei's voice dropped to a whisper. And now, that curse lives again. Kwame is Oba reborn. A cold realization washed over the villagers. The deaths were never random. They had welcomed the monster into their midst. The hunt begins. Shouts erupted from the crowd. He must pay. We cannot allow this evil to continue. But then, a sudden noise. A warrior turned his head toward Kwame's hut. He's gone. The villagers fell silent. And then, from the darkness, a deep, low hiss echoed through the night. Kwame had heard them. And he had fled. Without another word, the chief grabbed his spear. We end this tonight. Find him. Torches blazed, warriors armed themselves, and the village erupted into motion. Deep in the jungle, Kwame ran. His heart pounded, his body shifting between forms, his mind clouded with panic. He had always been the predator. But now, for the first time, he was the prey. The serpent's final strike. Kwame ran. The forest was a tangled maze of shadows and whispers, the thick canopy above swallowing the moonlight. His breath came in ragged gasps, his once confident stride now frantic. The sounds of the villagers' pursuit faded behind him, but something else, something unseen, was following him. He could feel it. The weight of judgment. The scent of vengeance. His feet carried him deeper into the jungle until he stumbled into a clearing, a forgotten shrine, swallowed by time. Its pillars, covered in moss, leaned like weary sentinels. Vines snaked around the stone carvings of old gods, their once proud faces now cracked and hollow. Panting, Kwame collapsed to his knees. His mind raced. The villagers will kill me. I cannot die like this. The gods would not forsake me. But the wind whispered otherwise. The spirits of the damned. A chilling breeze swept through the shrine, carrying with it voices. Soft at first. Murmuring. Hushed. Then, a chorus of whispers, filled with sorrow and rage. Kwame. He froze. You took our love and left us with death. The wind pressed against him like unseen hands. The shrine darkened, the trees bending inward, as if closing him in. From the shadows, they appeared. Adaora. The others. The women he had seduced. Betrayed. Killed. Their ghostly forms flickered like dying candlelight, their once beautiful faces now marred with the glowing bite marks he had left behind. Kwame crawled backward, shaking his head. No. No, I never meant. Lies. Their voices twisted around him, each word a dagger to his soul. You smiled as you stole our hearts. You whispered promises as you condemned us. Now the curse will claim you, as it claimed us. The air grew thick, suffocating. Then the ground trembled. The serpent's judgment. A hiss. Deep. Ancient. The air grew colder, the shrine shrouded in unnatural darkness. Kwame turned slowly, his heart hammering in his chest. From the shadows, it came. A massive serpent, its body as dark as the void, its eyes glowing like molten gold. It did not slither. It glided effortlessly, as if the very air obeyed it. Kwame's breath hitched. His body refused to move. His spirit, his very soul, felt caged beneath its gaze. He had spent his life praying. Now, he was the prey. Kwame fell to his knees, his pride shattered, his charm useless. His voice trembled. Please. I did not choose this curse. Have mercy. The serpent studied him. Then, slowly, its mouth opened, revealing fangs as long as daggers, dripping with venom. It spoke, not with words, but with the weight of the gods. You fed on love and left only sorrow. You took what was not yours, knowing the price. Now, the debt must be paid. Kwame's hands clawed at the dirt. No, no, I can change. The serpent struck. Fangs sank into his forehead, piercing the very spot where he had marked his victims. His body ceased. A violent convulsion racked through him as venom flooded his veins. Pain. Unimaginable pain. His skin burned, his limbs stiffened. His vision blurred. The spirits of the women watched in silence. His mouth opened in a final scream, but no sound came. Then, his body collapsed. Motionless. The curse had devoured him whole. Silence falls. The wind stilled. The jungle, once alive with whispers, grew silent. The spirits, their vengeance fulfilled, faded into the night. The serpent, its duty complete, turned and vanished into the shadows. And there, beneath the forgotten shrine, Kwame lay. No longer a man. No longer anything at all. The village cleansed and the lesson learned. The dawn after Kwame's disappearance was the first in months where the village of Oloran did not wake in fear. A hush fell over the land, a silence that felt different. Lighter. As if the very air had been cleansed of something unseen yet oppressive. Then, the warriors returned. They brought news, Kwame was dead. At first, the villagers did not believe it. The man who had ensnared hearts and left sorrow in his wake was too cunning, too untouchable. But when the warriors recounted what they had seen, the ancient shrine, the vengeful spirits, the serpent's final strike, a wave of realization swept through Oloran. The curse was over. A moment of stunned silence. Then, one by one, voices lifted in celebration. Drums echoed through the village. Women ululated in joy. Men raised their hands to the sky. For the first time in a long time, Oloran was free. The ritual of cleansing. But Mama Osei knew that Kwame's death alone was not enough. The stain of the curse still lingers, she warned the chief. If we do not cleanse the land, another may rise in his place. The elders agreed. A final ritual must be performed. That evening, under the full moon, the village gathered around the sacred grove. Baba Agbo, the powerful seer, stood beside Mama Osei, his eyes clouded with ancient wisdom. They prepared the cleansing fire. Bundles of rare herbs were thrown into the flames, releasing a thick, fragrant smoke that soared into the sky. Chants of protection filled the night, voices blending into a single, unwavering force. Baba Agbo lifted his staff. Spirits of the wronged, find your rest. The hands that took from you have been punished. Let your sorrow return to the earth. A sudden gust of wind swept through the village. The villagers gasped as they saw shimmering figures, the spirits of the fallen women, smiling. Their forms glowed softly, their faces no longer twisted in pain but at peace. One by one, they vanished into the night. The curse had been broken. A new beginning. In the days that followed, life in Oloran flourished. The heavy mist that had once clung to the village lifted. The crops, long stunted, began to thrive once more. Children laughed freely in the streets. The village had been reborn. But Chief Isnana knew that Oloran could not simply forget. He stood before the people and declared, "Let no man ever use his charm to deceive, nor his beauty to destroy." The tale of Kwame, the man with the serpent's curse, will be told to all who come after us, a warning of what becomes of those who take without love and seduce without honor. And so, for generations, the legend of Kwame was passed down. A tale whispered by mothers to their daughters. A lesson spoken by fathers to their sons. A reminder that beauty without honor leads only to ruin. And that the gods, though slow to anger, never forget.